So, guys, I think we've just seen the worst. And I mean, the worst call in the history of sport. I think we actually might have just seen the worst call in the entire history of sport. And, like, this is a shock that it is actually not Dijonai Carrington committing a flagrant foul.
She was paralyzed from the waist down and told her basketball career was over. Just 38 days later, in a recovery that doctors called a miracle, she was back on the court. She was a national hero, an inspiration to millions. So how did this same player become one of the most controversial figures in the WNBA, branded a dirty player, and see her career completely unravel? This is the shocking story of Dijonai Richards, a downfall that proves just how fast a hero can become a villain in the world of professional sports.
That call on Dijonai when Tiffany literally flew over her, wild. And then if you saw Paige's face when it was like, I think like 55 seconds left on the clock or something like that, and the coach was like giving them the next play, bruh.
Right, black and white sports reporters. Well, it doesn't matter how many times Dijonai Carrington wants to get on her social media and want to claim that she's the victim and that she's not a dirty player. The league has rescinded fouls. Yeah, the league's rescinding flagrant fouls on you because it's run by a bunch of cowards. They're flagrant fouls. They're dirty plays. They're trashy plays. Someone's going to get very physically injured. At this point, Dijonai Carrington, forget about it. You won't beat these allegations.
Before the drama and the controversy, Dijonai Richards was a name that inspired awe. At Baylor University, she wasn't just a great basketball player, she was a phenomenon. Her defensive prowess was legendary, earning her the 2020 Naismith Defensive Player of the Year award, an honor reserved for the absolute best. She was a lockdown defender, a player who could single-handedly change the momentum of a game with her tenacity and skill. But her defining moment came not during a game, but during a practice in October 2020. In a freak non-contact incident, Richards collided with a teammate and went down. What happened next was terrifying. She had suffered a spinal cord injury that resulted in temporary paralysis. She couldn't feel her legs. Doctors delivered the grim news that her basketball career was likely over, and she faced a long, uncertain road to recovery just to walk normally again. For most, this would have been the end, but what happened next would shock everyone. Just 38 days after being left paralyzed, Dijonai Richards returned to the court. It was a recovery that doctors called miraculous, a testament to her unbelievable resilience and determination. She wasn't just a player anymore, she was a hero, an inspiration to everyone who had ever faced adversity. Her story was bigger than basketball.
Hayes does not look nor play like she's 35. Okay, she be bringing it to them girls each and every night. She got that, acting like that face harness, okay, like to protect her face, her eyes, her nose, whatever that is. She be look like a dominatrix to me. I'd be like, bro, who is that? She looks like it's giving Scarecrow. Or like a Black Raven vibe, okay, like a hawk. Like she looks like a bird of prey, okay? And that's how she plays. She plays like a bird of prey, while the other girls in the court are just worms to her, okay? They are bird food because she be cooking and eating everybody.
Like, that might be, like, that is the worst call I've ever seen in basketball. That is actually the worst call I've ever seen in basketball. She just jumped through her. Like, she knew. Like, it is what it is. People will shield or get in the way of the ball and stand there. She just jumped over the back. Worst case scenario, it's an over the back foul. Worst case scenario, it's an over the back. Like, it is at least a foul on Tiffany Hayes, if not a flagrant.
With her incredible comeback story capturing the hearts of the nation, Dijonai Richards was drafted into the WNBA by the New York Liberty. It seemed like the perfect next chapter. Playing in the biggest market in the country, Richards brought an infectious energy and a relentless hustle that immediately made her a fan favorite. Her backstory made her easy to root for, and her on-court energy was undeniable. She was the spark plug off the bench, the defensive pest who got under opponents' skin and fired up the crowd. In her rookie season, she was everything the Liberty had hoped for, a talented player with a powerful story who embodied the spirit of New York. It felt like the beginning of a long and celebrated career. She was on top of the world, a living miracle playing on the biggest stage. But that intense, aggressive style that made her a star defender was about to become the very thing that would threaten to tear it all down.
So the ball gets swung. Janelle Salon shoots the ball. It's coming out. It's coming out. It's coming out. So Dijonai Carrington is just shielding the ball out of bounds. She's just shielding the ball out of bounds, as you do. And Tiffany Hayes tackles her to the ground. Tackles her to the ground.
You will not. Of course they're rescinding the fouls. That's what this league does. All right? Look, people can tell the difference between physical play and dirty play. And now there's a laundry list of evidence. Look, at this point, Dijonai Carrington should have been suspended, fined multiple times over. Of course they won't. Now we're gonna hit you with a flagrant, and then behind the scenes we're cool. We're gonna rescind the flagrant.
The same relentless aggression that won her Defensive Player of the Year in college began to be viewed through a different lens in the pros. What was once seen as tenacity was now being described as reckless. The whispers started slowly. Fans of opposing teams would complain about her physical play, calling her fouls overly aggressive. A hard screen, an entanglement fighting for a rebound, a little too much contact on a drive to the basket. These individual plays started to add up. Soon, the whispers grew into a full-blown narrative. The label dirty player began to follow her from city to city. Clips of her most questionable plays would circulate on social media, with each one adding more fuel to the fire. It didn't matter that she was often just playing the hard-nosed defense she was known for. In the court of public opinion, a verdict was being reached. She was no longer just a tough competitor, she was becoming a villain. The hero who had overcome paralysis was now being cast in a completely different light, and what happened next would solidify that reputation forever.
And was able to draw a foul. I'm like, what is this? I mean, she almost deleted freaking Dijonai. I thought, like, I was really gravely concerned for Dijonai Carrington's life and health. I'm like, did y'all not just see Tiffany Hayes just throw her body up against her and slam her to the ground? This is crazy. Literally slammed her. Dijonai Carrington got pushed into a freaking old white man's lap because of Tiffany Hayes jumping on her like she ain't got no sense.
Once a player gets the dirty label, it's almost impossible to shake. Every single move DiDi Richards made on the court was now under a microscope. A routine foul was suddenly evidence of malicious intent. Her name became synonymous with controversy, and the backlash was often brutal. The narrative had taken on a life of its own, spiraling far beyond the reality of her play. It was a classic case of perception becoming reality. Fans who had once cheered her inspirational story were now among her loudest critics. The situation revealed a darker side of sports fandom, where a player's reputation can be destroyed overnight by viral clips and online outrage. What was lost in all the noise was the complexity of the person at the center of it. Friends and teammates described her as one of the kindest people you could ever meet, a stark contrast to the villain she was portrayed to be on the court. But nuance is often the first casualty in a social media firestorm. Her reputation was set, and the consequences would prove to be devastating.
Skylar's going down for a fast break layup. Dijonai winds up and smacks her across the head, and Skylar is on the ground having a hard time getting up. But this was something where people are saying, okay, Dijonai, this is happening a little bit too much for my liking. These hard fouls, these reckless plays are happening a little bit too much, and I want to show you guys one more play that was also in that game that actually injured Gabby Williams. Now, if you watch here, Gabby Williams is going up for a little mid-range jumper. Dijonai jumps to try to block her, and she comes down to where Gabby Williams doesn't have enough landing space. So she lands in her landing space, and then Gabby Williams rolls her ankle.
In professional sports, reputation matters. As the dirty player narrative grew, Richards' standing in the league began to suffer. Despite her talent and energy, the controversy surrounding her had become a distraction. In a shocking move that stunned many of her supporters, the New York Liberty waived her. The team that had drafted her, the city that had embraced her, was moving on. It was a brutal reminder that the WNBA is a business, and no player is indispensable. She was picked up by the Washington Mystics, but her time there was short-lived, and she was waived again. This downward spiral was a direct result of the narrative that had been built around her. Teams were hesitant to take a chance on a player who brought so much baggage, regardless of her defensive skills. The hero of the miracle comeback was now struggling to simply find a spot on a roster, but the worst was yet to come.
So once again, Dijonai Ratchet as Carrington is back at it again, being the dirty player that she is, man. So now we're pulling players to the floor by their hair. But what did we tweet earlier this week, everybody? Y'all fans swear I'm such a dirty player. I'm so over this narrative. But I just play hard as fuck. And I just make a play on the ball. And I'm tired of people calling me a dirty player.
Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, fate delivered another cruel blow. While working out as a free agent, fighting to get another shot in the league, Didi Richards suffered a catastrophic injury, a torn Achilles. It's one of the most devastating injuries an athlete can endure, often career-altering, if not career-ending. The timing was heartbreaking. She was at her lowest point professionally, and now she faced another long, grueling recovery. For her critics, this was a moment of twisted vindication. What some darkly whispered was karma. They saw it as the inevitable conclusion for a player they believed played recklessly. For her supporters, it was an almost unbearable tragedy. A player who had already defied medicine to come back from paralysis now had to face another mountain. It was a quiet, lonely setback, far from the cheering crowds and bright lights, and it marked the culmination of her dramatic fall from grace.
Points to this Dallas ball. But do you know what another referee called? Do you know what another referee called? So one says it's Dallas ball. Another referee, as you can see right here, Salon miss, Valkyrie's rebound. Apparently Tiffany Hayes got the rebound. And Dijonai fouled Tiffany Hayes. Apparently.
To understand how the dirty player narrative got so out of control, you have to look at the specific moments that went viral. It wasn't just one play, but a series of high-profile incidents that cemented her reputation. One of the most talked about moments came during a game against the Atlanta Dream. In a clip that was replayed endlessly, Richards was seen grabbing an opponent's leg mid-play, a move that critics immediately labeled as dangerous and unsportsmanlike. Another infamous play involved a hard foul on her former teammate Sabrina Ionescu. The foul itself was aggressive, but the optics were terrible, showing Richards colliding with the Liberty's biggest star. These weren't just simple fouls, they were moments that provided perfect ammunition for her critics. In an age of instant replays and social media analysis, these plays were dissected from every angle, often stripped of context and presented as undeniable proof of her malicious intent. Each incident added another layer to the villain narrative, making it harder and harder for her to escape. But that wasn't the whole story.
Dijonai Carrington, damn, I didn't think it was this bad. She played for 15 minutes. It felt like it was longer. She had 4 points, 1 assist, and 4 rebounds. I'm gonna tell you why we should have won, okay? When it comes to the biggest lead, the Dallas Wings had 12-point lead. We blew a 12-point lead, whereas the Golden State Valkyries only by 2. They had 10 points over us at the most in this game. 12 versus 10 points.
Trapped in the eye of the storm, Didi Richards didn't stay silent. She consistently defended her style of play, arguing that she was simply a tough physical defender, not a dirty one. She explained that her intention was never to injure anyone, but to compete at the highest level. On social media and in interviews, she expressed frustration with the label, feeling that she had been unfairly targeted and misunderstood. She spoke about the immense mental toll that the constant criticism took on her. Imagine going from being celebrated as a hero to being vilified by thousands of people online every single day. The weight of that public condemnation is something few can understand. She tried to reclaim her own story, to remind people of the person behind the player. But in the loud, unforgiving world of sports commentary, her defense was often drowned out. Her attempts to fight back against the narrative sometimes only made things worse, as her critics accused her of not taking accountability. It was a no-win situation that highlighted the immense pressure placed on athletes in the digital age.
Is this? Look, pulling players to the floor by their hair is not making plays on the ball. This is not basketball. WNBA. When is she gonna get fined, suspended, or kicked out of the league for this reckless behavior? This is the 4th incident. The Lynx incident, taking out Ariel Atkins, taking out Skylar Diggins, and now the LA Sparks. When is it gonna stop, man? When is accountability gonna be taken for her being the dirty player and ratchet that she is?
The story of Dee Dee Richards is a complex and often heartbreaking one. It's a story about the fragile nature of heroism and villainy in sports. How can a player be celebrated as a miracle one day and condemned as a villain the next? Was she a genuinely dirty player whose actions deserved the criticism she received, or was she a misunderstood competitor whose aggressive style was unfairly targeted in an era of online outrage? Her journey from a Naismith Defensive Player of the Year and an inspirational comeback hero to an unsigned free agent recovering from a devastating injury is one of the most cautionary tales in the WNBA. It forces us to ask tough questions about fan culture, the power of narratives, and whether we, the audience, are too quick to build our heroes up only to tear them down. Her career is a stark reminder that the line between being celebrated and being cast out is incredibly thin, and that sometimes the hardest battles are fought not on the court but against a reputation you can no longer control.